Both these games have been previously released, but these new versions are going to be offering you updated artwork, as well as some variants to play the games a little bit differently with their existing player counts. But in the case of Haggis, there's also going to be a variant that allows playing with up to 4 players. Haggis does feature the climbing style of trick taking, which means that the first player is going to be able to play either any card that they want, or they could also play different types of sets, and the sets that are allowed in this game are to play any amount of cards that are matching number, or if you have cards that form a run, so that means that they're sequentially increasing, but then they also have to be matching the same suit, then you can play those as well. But whatever cards that player decided to lead with is going to be setting the precedence for the rest of that trick, because all the players that follow after that are going to have to play the same style of set, but it's also going to have to be with cards of higher values because you always have to be increasing. This continues around the table until all the players have passed, and then the player who last played any cards is going to be the one to win that trick, taking all those cards into their discard pile, and then also starting the following trick. This is really good for that player because the end of the round is going to be triggered once a single player is able to get rid of all the cards in their hand, so each player is rushing to try and do that. And if you are the first one to do it, you're going to be gaining points for the amount of cards that are left in your opponent's hands, as well as gaining points for the cards that you're able to claim from winning the various tricks. But at the start of each round, each player is also going to have a jack, a queen, and a king laid out in front of them, and these cards are actually going to be acting as wilds throughout the entirety of the round. So if you don't exactly have the cards that you need to create a particular set that you're trying to play, you can always use one of these wild cards. Of course, since these cards are face up in front of each of the players, all the other players will know how many of these you still have left in your possession. And even though these are left on the table, they still do count as the cards in your hand. So if you do want to be the first player to get rid of all the cards in your hand, you do have to get rid of these ones too. But aside from being dealt a hand of cards as well as these wild cards, players are also each going to get 3 different betting cards. And after each player has looked at their own hand of cards, each player is then going to have the opportunity to play one of these betting cards if they choose to do so. You could bid up to 30 points or you could bid nothing at all, but whatever bet you make, you will be winning that amount of points if you are able to be the winner of that round. But if you bet incorrectly, those points are going to be going towards your opponents. But like I said, that's not the only way to win victory points in this game, because all the players will also be gaining victory points for the tricks that they're able to win, because you're going to be taking all those cards that you won in those tricks, and any of the cards that are either a 3, 5, 7, 9, jack, king, or queen are going to be granting you a victory point. On top of this, not all the cards are used in a single round, so you're going to have a little bit of variation in the cards that come into play, but all the ones that aren't used are going to be left in a separate pile, and whichever player is the first to get rid of all their cards in a round is also going to be adding that pile into their discarded cards, adding to their score at this point in the game. Players can then either play the game over a set number of rounds, and in that case, the player with the most victory points at the end of those rounds is going to be the winner, or players can play up to a certain amount of victory points, and whoever gets to those victory points is going to be the winner of the game. But there is one more special thing to note about this game, and that's that there is a special type of set that any player can play on any trick, and that is the bomb set. And in order to form this set, you need to play a 3, a 5, a 7, and a 9, and they either have to be all the same suit, or they have to be each different suits. Playing a bomb can immediately end the current trick, and it does allow you to start the next one, but unlike normally when in a trick, you don't actually get to keep the cards in that previous trick. Like I said, there are going to be a couple different variants in this new version of the game, but if you are interested in this one, you can check it out in the link down below. But we do also have Tricktakers. And Tricktakers is a game for 2 to 5 players. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. In this game, players are going to be playing as different characters with different effects and abilities, and this game actually offers you with 3 different ways that you can win the game. You could either be the first player to gain 2 gold crowns, the first player to gain 3 black crowns, or you could try to complete your character-specific win condition, which usually does require you getting a certain amount of points, but each character is going to be scoring points a little bit differently. The trick taking in this game does follow your more traditional trick taking, where there's going to be a lead player leading with a particular suit. All the other players are required to follow that suit if they're able to do so, but in this game the suits are going to be represented by colors, and it's always the black card that's going to be acting as trump. But what makes this trick-taking game very different from a lot of other trick-taking games that I've seen is because this one also introduces the idea of colorless cards. These are going to be represented by the white cards, but what makes these interesting is that since they don't have a color at all, you can actually play these into any trick that you want at any point in the game. One of these colorless cards is just worth less than any other card in the game, so with that one you're just trying to get rid of it at the first opportunity that you can, but then the other colorless card is actually worth more than almost every other card in the game, even the trump card, unless it is the berserker card, because the berserker card is trump, but it's worth more than even the colorless cards. But a really interesting concept that comes along with these colorless cards is that if a player leads with a colorless card, since it's colorless, it's not going to be setting the suit for that trick. Instead, it's going to be the first colored card that gets played that's going to be setting that suit, and then all the other players will have to follow that card. So in this trick-taking game, it's not always the lead player that's setting the suit of a trick. And then any players that were able to not win a single trick will be winning one of the black crowns, and then players will just be gaining points based on the tricks that they won and the way that their specific character scores. The game continues like this for 3 rounds, and if a player is able to get 2 gold crowns, then they win the game, or if a player is able to get 3 black crowns, then they win the game. Otherwise, it's the player with the most victory points at the end of the game that wins based on their specific character's scoring. And if you're interested in this one, you can check it out. I do have links to the campaign in the description below.